Discover how one heartwarming cowboy changed her life forever. An unexpected love story. HD. The sun beat down on Lucy's shoulders as she tightened the last bolt on the barn door, every turn of the wrench echoing through the empty fields. The weight of the world rested heavily on her, a devoted mother of two trying to keep her family farm alive after her husband walked out, leaving only memories behind. Alone with her kids, the burden felt heavier each day, loneliness creeping in like a shadow on the sunniest of afternoons. But Lucy refused to let despair win. She was resilient, a woman molded by the American spirit. Just then, a rugged figure appeared through the haze of heat. Jake, the cowboy who returned home after serving his country. His silhouette against the sun was striking, his smile warm and genuine. With a heart of gold and hands rough from years of work, he offered to help. Lucy could feel a familiar flutter in her chest, but that glimmer of hope quickly dimmed. She couldn't afford to let someone in again. Past betrayals had left wounds too deep, and no amount of kindness could heal them. As summer days melted into one another, Jake became a constant in her life, showing up to help with the farm while warming her heart with laughter. Suddenly, the community that had once turned a blind eye began to pull together, providing meals and support, a beautiful tapestry of neighborly love. The smell of freshly baked pie wafted through her open kitchen window, and giggles from her children filled the air. In those moments, Lucy felt the tiniest flicker of hope ignite within her, reminding her that she was not as alone as she had thought. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue, but the calm didn't last long. News of a wealthy developer planning to buy out her farm spread through town like wildfire, his eyes glinting with promises of luxury homes. Panic clutched at Lucy's throat as she fought to keep her family legacy from slipping through her fingers. Her heart raced at the thought of losing their home, her children's laughter swallowed by concrete. And just when she thought she had found solace in Jake's company, she discovered that his family was entwined with the developer's plans, leaving her torn. Should she trust him or fear the betrayal that might come with it? As Lucy navigated her emotions, community support surged once more. They rallied around her, their determination to help overshadowing her growing doubts about Jake. As she gripped the barn door, staring down at the dust swirling at her feet, she realized that her fight wasn't just for her home but for a chance at a happiness she thought she had lost. Would she dare to love again, knowing it could lead to heartbreak? The question hung in the air, as palpable as the summer heat. Lucy's heart raced as she wrestled with her feelings. Could she trust Jake enough to let him in? Would love hold the power to heal the wounds of the past, or would it only complicate her already tangled life? The stakes were higher than ever, and as she cast one last glance back at the barn, her soul ached with uncertainty. The fight for her land had begun, and so had the battle for her heart. Lucy stood in the warmth of the afternoon sun, her heart a battleground of conflicting emotions. The vibrant colors of the fields swirled around her, filled with memories of laughter, joy, and the simplicity of a life untouched by greed. But the wind carried whispers of change, stirring an unease deep in her soul. As she wiped the sweat from her brow, her thoughts turned to Jake, the cowboy whose kindness was like a lifeline tossed into her turbulent sea of doubt. Jake pulled up in his truck, the gravel crunching beneath the tires. He stepped out, his presence commanding yet comforting. Lucy's heart fluttered, but she fought the urge to let herself smile. She had to remind herself of the stakes. "Hey, Lucy," he called, walking toward her with an easy gait that made her stomach flip. "I brought some supplies." He gestured to the open bed of his truck filled with tools and bags of feed. "Thanks, Jake," she replied, forcing her voice to remain steady. Inside, she felt a storm brewing. He could be her ally or the source of her greatest heartbreak. As they worked together, there was a rhythm to their movements, a dance born from shared effort. Jake's laughter echoed across the fields as he teased her about her stubbornness, and for a moment, the shadows of worry receded. They discussed the farm, the children, and even small dreams for the future. But each casual conversation felt intertwined with the undercurrent of impending loss. "Have you thought about what you'll do if the developer comes back?" Jake asked, glancing at her. The light in his eyes shifted, revealing a depth that made her stomach twist. "I can't think that way," Lucy replied. "I have my kids to think about. I just want them to have a safe home." Jake moved closer, brushing a hand over her shoulder, sparking an electric pulse through Lucy's body. "You're not alone in this. The whole town is behind you. We'll find a way." But his words stirred uncertainty within her. Did he really mean it? Or was he just another player in a game where she could end up losing everything? As the sun began to sink, casting golden rays over the land, Lucy felt that familiar flutter in her heart again. With every soft glance and gentle touch, her reservations began to wane. Right then, the moment felt perfect until a loud honk echoed from the road. They both turned to see a sleek car pull up, its polished exterior stark against the weathered beauty of their farm. The developer stepped out, his smooth voice slicing through the peaceful evening as he approached. "Lucy," he said, flashing a smile that felt more like a threat than an invitation. "I came to talk business." Jake's body tensed beside her, and suddenly, the warm air turned thick like molasses. Lucy inhaled sharply, awareness surging through her. This was at the moment where everything could change. Before she could respond, Jake stepped forward, an unexpected protector at her side. His face hardened, and Lucy could see the resolve in his eyes. She watched the two men square off, the atmosphere crackling with tension. "Now is not the time," Jake said defiantly, his voice firm but steady. Lucy's heart sank a little, torn between what felt right and the unsettling truth of their situation. Would Jake stand by her, or would he ultimately choose his family's wealth over her? As she stood between them, the world around her faded, leaving only the weight of the decision looming ahead. Would she risk everything for a chance to trust? The fight for her land was only beginning, but the battle for her heart was more complicated than she ever imagined. With the developer's eyes lingering on her, Lucy felt the fear rise again, and the question simmered in her mind: could Jake be her ally, or was he just another mirage in her struggle for survival? And as the sun set behind the hills, she knew that the choices made within the next few moments could change everything. What would they do when the shadow of the past collided with the uncertainty of the future? The developer's smile faltered as he took in the scene, Jake's rigid stance and Lucy's uncertain face. For just a heartbeat, the air held its breath, the tension palpable. Lucy's fingers trembled as she clutched the hem of her shirt, wishing she could disappear into the earth beneath her. "Business?" Jake echoed, his voice taut with defiance. "There's nothing to discuss here." The words rang out like a challenge, and Lucy's heart raced. She had seen that look on Jake before, determined, fierce, ready to fight for what was right. "Is that so?" The developer replied, his smile widening, each word laced with insincerity. "Perhaps you're unaware of the time-sensitive nature of this offer," he gestured then, as if trying to circle them, his eyes sharp and calculating. "I could help you both, and you can avoid the legal headaches that come with a fight." Lucy felt herself recoil, the idea of selling ringing as hollow in her heart as the laughter of her children in their backyard. "Jake, he doesn't mean Lucy, don't entertain this," Jake interjected, taking a step closer to her, blocking her view of the developer. The softness in his voice was a stark contrast to the tension crackling around them. The developer laughed, feigning disbelief. She would be better off with some cash in hand rather than fighting a losing battle. "I'm trying to do you a favor, save it," Jake snapped, and Lucy could see the intensity in his eyes, a fire that ignited something in her. It filled her with both hope and fear, this instinct she had to trust him. "My kids," Lucy murmured, almost too quiet for Jake to hear. "They deserve this land. And they will have it," he said, unwavering. "But we need to stand firm together." But doubt slithered back in. What if this is a mistake? What if he is right? Jake turned to her, holding her gaze steady. Lucy, you're not alone. We'll figure this out, but you have to believe it. Don't let him put fear in your heart. The developer's voice dripped with mock concern. Oh, poor Lucy. It's too bad your cowboy can't save you from the inevitable. I'll be back with a better offer. One you can't refuse. He gave a dismissive wave and got back into his car, leaving behind the chill of his threats like a lingering fog. In silence, they watched him drive away, the engine fading into the distance. Lucy turned to Jake, searching his face for answers. What do we do now? He stepped closer, and the world around them narrowed to just the two of them. We gather the town, get them on your side. They care about this place, too. Are you sure? I can't ask that of everyone. You don't have to ask, Jake said gently. They'll come because they want to. This land means something to all of us, Lucy. A warm rush of gratitude flowed through her, but it was quickly followed by another wave of fear. If they failed, what would it mean for her family? And what about us? She whispered, unable to hide the vulnerability creeping into her voice. If this goes wrong, what happens to us? Jake paused, his expression softening. We'll make it through. Together. For the first time that evening, Lucy felt the weight lifting. With every heartbeat, the fire of hope began to outshine her fears. They might just stand a chance against the storm approaching. But before they could explore what that promise meant, she spotted movement in the grass. A small child's figure darted out from the edge of the field, tiny feet kicking up dust. It was her youngest, Ellie, chasing after a butterfly. The innocent joy in her child's laughter shattered the tension that hung around them. Lucy smiled but felt the familiar knot return. We have to protect this, for her, she said, determination rising within her soul. Jake nodded, resolve concrete in his eyes. We will. As they walked towards Ellie, gearing up for the fight ahead, Lucy knew the stakes had just gotten higher. There would be no turning back now. And as the last rays of sun dipped below the horizon, a question echoed in her mind: would love prove strong enough to face the challenges ahead, or would her heart have to pay the ultimate price for protecting what mattered most? The next morning broke over the small town with a veil of golden light, washing away the darkness of the previous night's confrontation. Lucy stood on her porch, a steaming cup of coffee cradled in her hands. The familiar sounds of the morning beckoned: birds chirping, children laughing, and the distant rumble of an early tractor. Yet, her heart was heavy with uncertainty. Jake arrived shortly after, his jeans dusted with the remnants of yesterday's tasks at the farm. He approached with casual confidence, a bright smile lighting up his face. You ready for this? Lucy took a deep breath, inhaling the rich aroma of coffee mixed with the fresh morning air. I don't know, Jake. What if it doesn't go as we plan? His smile faded slightly, but only for a moment. Then we adapt. But we won't let that developer steamroll over us without a fight. His voice was steady, a dance of warmth and determination. They spent the morning placing flyers in every mailbox around town, a call to action for the community meeting that evening. Together for our land, the flyers boldly proclaimed. It felt like a rallying cry, but Lucy couldn't shake off the anxious flutter in her chest. As they walked, she noticed the curious stares from some of their neighbors. Not all shared the same enthusiasm, but many waved. It was a small spark of hope that ignited the flickering flame in her heart. With Jake by her side, she felt emboldened. Do you really think they'll show up? Lucy asked, glancing up at him. The midday sun cast a warm glow on his strong features, making him look even more resolute. They'll come. This land is part of who we are. The kids play here, families gather here. People care. He paused, then added, and they care about you. They know what you're fighting for. As the sun dipped lower, casting elongated shadows, the town hall filled with familiar faces. Tension crackled in the air, as conversations buzzed. Lucy's heart raced as she fidgeted with her hands, the reality of the situation settling in. the meeting started, and Lucy listened as one by one, people shared their concerns about the developer's intentions. Stories emerged of cherished memories tied to the land, their children playing tag in the sprawling fields, the harvest festivals, and the bond of community that thrived because of it. "Lucy!" A voice called from the corner. It was Mary, a longtime neighbor. "You're not alone in this fight. We're all with you." Cheers erupted, and with it, Lucy felt a surge of strength wash over her. How had she ever doubted? Jake stepped forward, eyes blazing with passion. "This isn't just about land, it's about our homes, our stories, our lives." His fervor was contagious, igniting something deep within everyone in the room. Lucy watched in awe as the fear she had felt earlier transformed into determination, a collective heartbeat of resilience resonating through the crowd. Together, they would stand. As the meeting drew to a close and plans were made for the next steps, Jake turned to Lucy, a look of triumph in his eyes. "See? We're stronger together." But Lucy's gaze drifted past him, landing on her children, Ellie and her older brother, Sam, laughing with their friends outside. It was a simple moment, yet it filled her heart with such overwhelming love and purpose. "Let us get this done," she affirmed, feeling the weight of the battle ahead. But in that moment, surrounded by support and the innocence of her children's laughter, she knew they were not alone. As they stepped outside, the night sky began to weave in hues of deep blue and golden stars. Lucy felt a tremor of anticipation. But deeper than that, a question lingered: what would the outcome be, not just for the land, but for everything she cared about, including the unexpected connection she had begun to forge with Jake? The air was thick with anticipation as the stars twinkled overhead, their distant luminescence a stark contrast to the uncertainty in Lucy's heart. The community had rallied around her, shoulders back and voices loud, but the weight of what lay ahead loomed large. They would need to fight not just for land but for the very soul of their town. As they made their way home, Jake walked close beside Lucy, their shoulders almost touching. "You were amazing tonight," he said, glancing at her with admiration. "You spoke from the heart." Lucy could feel warmth rising to her cheeks. I couldn't let everyone down," she replied, pushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "They believe in this. They believe in me." Jake nodded, his expression serious. "You've got to believe in yourself too. This isn't just about the land, it's about you showing everyone the leader you can be," he encouraged. They reached her porch, the creaking wood familiar underfoot. Lucy turned to face him, their gazes locking for a moment that felt electric. She noticed a softness in his eyes that made her heart flutter, but she quickly pushed the thought aside, focusing instead on the tangible issues at hand. "Can we talk about the next steps?" she asked, trying to redirect her fluttering emotions. "We need to make a solid plan for how to present our case." "Absolutely," Jake replied, stepping onto the porch with her. The air was filled with the scent of lilacs blooming nearby, their presence seemed almost magical amidst the tension of the evening. "We can gather stories, collect signatures, maybe even set up meetings with local officials. We have to show them how vital this land is to us." Lucy crossed her arms, lost in thought. "But what if they don't listen?" she whispered, the fear creeping back in. "What if it all just falls apart?" "Then we push harder," Jake said, leaning closer. "We keep fighting for what's right. We're not just here to preserve the land, we're here to fight for memories, for the kids, for our future." In that moment, something shifted between them. It was more than just a partnership built from necessity, it felt like something deeper, something that had been waiting to bloom. Lucy held his gaze, allowing herself to imagine a day when they might look back on this moment as a pivotal point in their lives. Suddenly, Ellie and Sam burst through the front door, their laughter breaking the spell. "Mom! Can we have ice cream?" they shouted in unison, eyes gleaming with childhood mischief. "Sure. But only if you promise to brush your teeth afterward." Lucy laughed, the tension lifting slightly as the warmth of her children filled the air. The kids scampered toward the kitchen. Jake took a step back, but not without a lingering smile. "I guess that's our cue," he said. "But we'll talk more tomorrow. I'll bring the flyers we need to make." "Definitely," Lucy replied, feeling a sense of excitement but still wrestling with her feelings. The thought of Jake wanting to keep working together lit a spark in her soul. Yet as she watched him walk away, a troubling realization settled in: Jake was becoming more than just an ally in her fight. The connection they were forming was undeniable. That night, Lucy lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her heart a whirlwind of emotions and uncertainties. Would their shared journey lead to something more? Or would she risk it all for a chance at a connection that could change her life forever? The moon hung high, casting shadows that danced across the room, echoing the turmoil within her. And with a soft sigh, Lucy felt stirred by a thought that wouldn't leave her mind. What if fighting for the land meant something more than just preserving a piece of earth? What if it was about discovering a path to love she hadn't dared to imagine? The next morning dawned bright and clear, the sun spilling golden light across the kitchen table where Lucy sat surrounded by a flurry of colorful papers and pens. She sipped her coffee, the warmth grounding her in the moment as Ellie and Sam bickered over who would get the last chocolate chip in the bowl. "Mom! I want it!" Sam shouted, tugging at his sister's shirt. "No way! I saw it first!" Ellie countered, crossing her arms defiantly. Lucy chuckled, shaking her head at their antics. This was the chaos she loved, and each laugh was a reminder of why she needed to fight for their home. She took a deep breath, centering herself as she scanned through the flyers she had started to design. They needed to be powerful, something that could evoke emotions, something that could pull on the heartstrings of the very town they were fighting for. Just then, a knock at the door broke through the morning chatter. Lucy set her cup down and opened the door to find Jake standing there, holding a stack of flyers, a grin plastered across his face. "Hope I'm not too early," he said, a teasing lilt in his voice. His presence brought a rush of warmth, one that was quickly complicated by the memories of the previous night. "No, not at all. Come in." Lucy stepped aside, allowing him to enter. As he walked in, she noticed the way he carried himself, an easy confidence that sent a flutter through her heart. "Those look great," he said, nodding at the flyers littered across the table. "I brought some to add to the mix." "Perfect," she replied, her excitement bubbling over. "The more we have, the better." As they worked side by side, Lucy felt an electric charge in the air, a blend of teamwork and an unspoken connection. They discussed strategies, tossing out ideas, each suggestion met with a supportive nod or an enthusiastic approval. "I think we should add a personal touch," Jake suggested as he sketched out a rough layout for their presentation. "People need to see faces, know that these are stories, not just statistics." "That's a great idea," Lucy said, her heart racing at how natural this felt. "We could feature families who have lived here for generations. Stories of kids playing in these fields and families gathering for barbecues. The essence of community swirled around them like an invisible thread binding their goals and dreams together." As they stood closer, Lucy could feel the warmth radiating off Jake, stirring feelings she knew she shouldn't be feeling, not now, not amidst a fight for survival. The door swung open again, this time revealing a couple of neighbors, Marshall and Clara, eager to lend a hand. "We heard about the fight and wanted to join forces," Clara exclaimed, her smile bright. "Absolutely," Lucy replied, her heart swelling with gratitude. With each neighbor who joined their cause, Lucy felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. It wasn't only about fighting for their land, it was about forging a community that cared, a community united. As they all settled in, spreading out the materials and sharing stories, Lucy glanced at Jake, who was now animatedly discussing an idea with Marshall, his hands gesturing toward an imaginary map. She couldn't help but smile, a feeling of camaraderie flooding through her, but as the morning passed into afternoon, and the laughter and plans filled the air, a shadow loomed outside her mind. What if this connection with Jake grew too strong? What if she lost herself in it, caught between duty and desire? With a hesitant heart, Lucy buried her thoughts, determined to focus on the mission at hand. But deep down, she couldn't ignore the pull, the magnetic attraction that was quietly developing between them. As they wrapped up for the day, Jake turned to her, a serious note in his voice. "Lucy, I don't just see you as a partner in this fight. I feel something more. And I think we need to address it." Lucy's heart skipped, the world around her fading as his words washed over her. What she had feared was now out in the open, and the moment of truth hung heavily in the air. How would she respond? The file's end. Plans scattered on the table suddenly felt all too secondary, the weight of a new beginning pressing down like a storm, threatening to change everything. Lucy felt the air thicken, the pulse of her heart echoing in her ears. She wanted to flee, to hide away in the comfort of her chaotic family life. Yet, here stood Jake, pouring out honesty in a moment that felt surreal. The laughter of their neighbors faded into the background, each sympathy-filled smile becoming distant as all she could focus on was Jake's gaze, earnest and searching. She stammered, caught off guard. "I didn't know you felt that way." Jake took a step closer, his expression softening. "I couldn't keep it in. You're passionate about this cause, but I see so much more in you. I don't want to ignore it. We are fighting together, but I hope we can also explore something beyond that." Lucy fought to process his words, each syllable igniting conflicting emotions within her. What if this spark between them was just a fleeting moment amidst the stress? What if it blossomed into something beautiful but impossible? Meanwhile, Ellie and Sam scampered past them, arguing over whose turn it was to pick the next song for their makeshift dance party in the living room. Their playful giggles reminded Lucy of the responsibilities that weighed on her. She couldn't allow herself to be swept away by a new emotion right now. "I care about you too, Jake," she finally said, her voice barely breaking through the anxiety thrumming in her throat. "But right now, we have so much to focus on. It wouldn't be fair to either of us to complicate things further." Jake's eyes held a hint of disappointment, but he managed a nod. "I understand. Just know that this connection is real, and I'm here when you're ready. Let us not lose sight of the fight ahead." Lucy breathed a sigh of relief alongside a hint of regret. Their path ahead was lined with uncertainty, yet she was grateful that he respected her need for boundaries. The warmth of his honesty felt like the sun pushing away the clouds, but the weight of her pragmatism kept the shadows close. The gathering began to wind down as neighbors headed home, plans being solidified, promises to meet again for further collaboration. The kitchen grew quiet, the lively noise replaced by the sound of dishes clattering as Lucy and her kids pitched in to clean up. Rebecca had just finished putting away the last of the flyers when she noticed Jake lingering by the doorway, his hands in his pockets, a contemplative expression playing on his face. "Don't be a stranger," she called out as he turned to leave. "We'll need you back soon." "I won't be," he replied, his smile waking up the room, momentarily brightening her spirits. "I'll be around, Lucy. We'll get through this together, one way or another." As he stepped through the threshold, Lucy felt an unexpected pang of longing. She turned back to her kids, who were busy debating the merits of bubblegum versus chocolate ice cream. Their innocent conversation brought a smile to her face, but deep down, a tiny part of her yearned for more than just being a mother and a fighter for her community. Later that night, as she read to Ellie and Sam, their soft, sleepy voices lulled her into a peaceful rhythm. Yet, her mind remained restless. The questions swirled: could she truly hold her heart back? Was it possible to fight for her home and still pursue a personal happiness she had closed off for so long? Settling into bed, Lucy stared at the ceiling, reassessing her life. What would happen if she let herself explore this connection with Jake? Could it coexist with her life here, in this house filled with laughter and chaos? The decisions before her felt monumental, a crossroads she never expected to find herself at, leaving her both exhilarated and terrified. Taking a deep breath, she whispered into the dark, "What if?" With a newfound resolve mixed with uncertainty, Lucy let the weight of the day settle around her, knowing tomorrow would bring both challenges and choices that could forever alter the course of her life. What direction would it take next? The morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, filling the room with a warm glow. Lucy stood at the counter, pouring her coffee, the rich aroma wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. The kids were already bustling about, fighting over who would get to wear the new superhero costume. Their animated chatter formed a soundtrack against the quiet chaos of her thoughts. The delicate balance between her responsibilities and her desires pressed heavily on her mind. Jake's words echoed his hope for something more lingered in the air like a sweet perfume. Was it possible? She shook her head, trying to push it aside while she refocused on Ellie and Sam. Their laughter tugged at her heartstrings, reminding her of her role as their anchor in the storm. As the day unfolded, her worries wove themselves into her tasks. She found herself reaching for her phone more often, glancing at it longingly as if looking for a sign from Jake. Could he really be the answer to her unvoiced questions? They were in the fight of their lives, but was it wrong to want a partner in the trenches? Later that afternoon, when Ellie and Sam were occupied with art supplies, Lucy pulled out her laptop. She typed out the draft of a letter to the community. As the words flowed, the haze of her internal battle began to clear. But just as she hit send, a message popped up from Jake. "Hey, you around? Need to talk about the upcoming meeting." A flutter of nerves twisted in her stomach. Why was she so anxious to hear from him? The kids were still engrossed in their artistic endeavors, giving her a moment to breathe. Taking a steadying breath, she replied, "Sure. When?" His quick response was immediate. "How about I swing by in an hour?" That was enough for her heartbeat to pick up its pace. She hurriedly tidied up. Thoughts raced in her mind. Was she ready to confront whatever this was between them? An hour later, the doorbell rang. Lucy's palms felt clammy as she opened the door to find Jake standing there, a nervous yet charming grin on his face. He looked every bit the cowboy she had imagined, with his easy confidence wrapped in denim and a plaid shirt that hugged his frame just right. "Hey, Lucy," he said, stepping inside and taking in the chaotic scene. "They're busy." "Yeah, they'll be here for a while." "What did you want to talk about?" Jake shifted on his feet, scratching the back of his neck as if weighing his thoughts. "I wanted to talk about the project, but honestly, it's more than that. I respect what you're doing and wanted to check in on you." His sincerity disarmed her. Lucy knew this was the moment to lay her cards out on the table, to reveal the turmoil churning within her. "Jake, I appreciate that you care. But I really don't want to complicate things between us or with the cause." Before she could finish, he stepped closer, the air between them thick with unspoken tension. "But what if it's not a complication? What if it's exactly what we need?" The challenge in his voice sent a shiver down her spine. 1,000 questions danced in her head, but all Lucy could do was hold his gaze. It felt both exhilarating and terrifying to stand so close to him. Just then, a loud crash broke the spell. Ellie and Sam had toppled their art supplies, and chaos erupted in the living room. The moment shattered, drawing them both back into the reality of everyday life. Laughing, Jake backed away. "Looks like your little helpers need you." "Yes," Lucy sighed, trying to regain her composure. She knew she couldn't ignore what had just surfaced between them, but life had a way of reminding her of her priorities. As they worked together to clean up the mess, the energy shifted. There was an understanding in Jake's eyes that told her this wasn't over. It was just beginning. Later that night, as she lay in bed, thoughts of what Jake had suggested spun through her mind. What if she could allow herself to be vulnerable? She had always fought with her heart locked away, but could a new connection bloom among the rubble of her daily life? With a firm resolve, Lucy whispered into the stillness, tomorrow I'll figure this out." And as she drifted off, a new question echoed softly in her mind, a plea and a challenge intertwined. Can love bloom in the midst of chaos? The next morning, Lucy woke with the sunlight pouring in through the curtains, filling her room with a golden warmth that felt different somehow. It was a new day, a fresh start. She pushed herself up, 100 thoughts racing through her mind like a herd of wild horses. As she headed to the kitchen, the delicious scent of coffee drifted through the air, and she realized it was time to stop second-guessing herself. She had been so focused on her kids and their needs that she forgot to think about her own heart. Maybe it was time to let that heart breathe a little. "Mom! Can we have pancakes?" Sam yelled, bursting into the kitchen with an eager smile that lit up the room. "Of course," she replied, feeling an unexpected surge of enthusiasm. As she whipped together the batter, she contemplated the day's possibilities. Jake had pushed her to think outside her comfort zone, and maybe that push was just what she needed. Ellie soon joined them, dragging her favorite stuffed bear along. "Mom, can I help?" "Absolutely, sweetie," Lucy said, her heart swelling with warmth at their excitement. As they worked side by side, laughter and chatter filled the air, drowning out her lingering worries. In the midst of the joyful chaos, the doorbell rang, and Lucy felt her pulse quicken. Could it be Jake already? Rushing to the door, she opened it to find him leaning casually against the frame, a confident grin plastered across his face. "Hey there, thought I'd come by and see how you all are doing," he said, his eyes sparkling with genuine interest. "Come in, the kids are making pancakes," Lucy replied, a mix of excitement and anxiety bubbling in her chest. Jake entered, and the moment he stepped into the kitchen, it felt as if the space brightened. The kids were thrilled, tossing flour in the air as they worked an exhilarating mess that only highlighted the joy in the air. "Wow, this looks like a fun cooking experiment," Jake chuckled, kneeling down to help Ellie mix the batter. He glanced at Lucy, the mirth in his eyes pulling at something deep within her. "Yeah," she admitted, feeling the tension beginning to ease. "It's our special weekend thing." As they cooked together, the conversation flowed easily, an effortless dance of words and laughter. But as the pancakes piled high, Lucy's heart began to thump with unspoken questions. Could she let someone in again? Was she truly ready for whatever it meant to explore this connection with Jake? With a sudden sense of daring, she turned and asked, "So, Jake, what do you really think about us? About this dynamic we have?" His gaze turned serious, the laughter fading just for a moment. "I think there is something real here, Lucy. But I know it's complicated. I don't want to rush you or put any pressure on your life." She felt her heart constrict, caught between fear and hope. "I don't want to rush this either, but I can't deny." A loud crash startled them, and Ellie squealed, pointing to a plate that had slipped off the counter. It shattered into pieces, scattering across the floor. "Not again!" Lucy exclaimed in frustration, but a glance at Jake eased her temper. He laughed and held up a broom. "Looks like we'll need to clean up a bit before we eat." That moment of light-heartedness brought her back to what truly mattered: family, laughter, and the unpredictable joy of living fully. They glided into another round of friendly banter, turning the kitchen disaster into a shared joke. As the children finished pouring syrup over their pancakes, Lucy couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, not just in the atmosphere of the room, but within herself. Maybe she could do this. Maybe love could indeed bloom amidst the chaos. After breakfast, while the kids darted off to play, Lucy found herself drawn to Jake again. Their eyes met, and for a moment, time stood still, but just as she opened her mouth to speak, the phone rang, piercing through their moment. The urgency of the call tugged at her sense of duty, and she felt her heart drop slightly. "Sorry, I need to take this," she said, glancing apologetically at Jake. Before answering. As she listened to the voice on the other end, her heart raced for an entirely different reason. Something urgent was unfolding at the community center. With the day's potential hanging in the air, Lucy knew she had a choice to make. Would she prioritize the call or invite Jake into her world on a deeper level? "Just give me a second, Jake," she murmured, feeling the weight of life's demands pressing down once more. As she stepped outside to talk, her mind wrestled with the very question she'd begun to explore: was she ready to embrace both love and responsibility, or would she retreat into what she had always known? And as the conversation picked up, a door opened in her mind, one she never knew could exist. What waited on the other side could change everything, but only if she had the courage to step through. The sun was a hesitant morning circle, spilling soft light through the trees as Lucy headed into town. Today was vital. It felt monumental. The community meeting loomed, a rallying point where hopes and dreams would clash with threats and unknowns. She could feel the excitement bubbling in her chest, but doubt still nipped at her heels. Jake had prepared her for this. Their partnership had evolved from mere allies in a struggle to something more substantial, something that felt right. As she parked her truck, the familiar faces of neighbors greeted her, smiles and nods exchanged like secret compacts. Together, they had united behind a common cause, a bond she had never thought she would rely on again. "Lucy. Ready?" Jake's voice rang like a bell as he approached, his expression brightening with her arrival. He had become a stronghold of encouragement for her and her kids, a reassuring presence that made her heart flutter. "Let us do this," she said, surprising herself with the strength that punctuated her voice. There were no more barricades. She was here to fully embrace her fight for the land, for her children's future, and maybe, just maybe, for a chance at love. As the meeting unfolded within the aged wooden walls of the town hall, she stood before her neighbors, her heartbeat drumming a steady rhythm of hope. Lucy shared poignant memories, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. When she described a playdate under the big oak tree, laughter filled the room, a shimmering embrace of community wrapping tightly around them. Jake stood nearby, his presence like a steady flame against a backdrop of uncertainty. When it came time for him to speak, he stepped forward, passion igniting in his words. "It's not just land that's at stake. It's our history, our families, and our future." Cheers erupted, the rhythm of unity washing over them like a wave. Faces glowed with determination. Lucy could see her children's joy reflected in the crowd's energy, a contagious power shifting the atmosphere from one of doubt to optimism, but hope didn't come without trials. The developer arrived, slick as oil, oozing confidence. Jake stepped protectively beside her, an unsaid promise of solidarity interlacing their fates. Lucy swiped a glance at him, and in that moment, their bond spoke without words, a silent accord that now was a time for action stronger than anything. "Lucy, I understand your plight, but this deal could secure your children's financial future," the developer smooth-talked, his smile tight and calculated. "What you offer is not worth the price of our home." Lucy's voice erupted, and in the quiet wood of the town hall, every single eye was on her. A home is built on memories, love, and generations, things money cannot replace. The murmurs of the crowd started rolling, rising like a tide, fingers pointed toward the developer, voices lifted in agreement. Jake's unwavering gaze fueled her resolve, and suddenly everything felt effortlessly clear. They were together here in the fight, here in the moment. As the evening sun cast an ethereal glow through the windows, new plans were born. They discussed strategies, leveraging connections, building community events. The anger over the threat galvanized into action, turning into events and a petition that night. But amidst the fervor of their power, Lucy's heart felt just as layered as the fight. Would things stay this way with Jake? When the crowd finally dispersed, Lucy lingered, contemplating the crushing wave of emotions. Jake approached, sensing the turmoil in her heart. "Hey," he said softly. "You nailed it out there. The way you spoke, you are not just fighting for this land, you're leading." "Thanks, but I couldn't have done it without everyone backing me up," she replied, glancing around the empty halls, seeing echoes of hope. "But I'm glad I was here," he added, stepping even closer. Their eyes connected, an undeniable electricity crackling across the space between them. "Lucy, there is something special growing between us, wouldn't you agree?" She felt her defenses drop, cascading like the sun, slipping below the horizon. The truth of their connection had been undeniable throughout the events of the day. "I do," she finally admitted, her heart feeling lighter, buoyed by the possibility of love. "But is this really the time? We have so much going on." "Love isn't a distraction. It's a support, a motivation," he replied, confidence lacing his every word. I care about you and your family, and that care is going to be part of this fight, not a detour from it. Lucy let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. You're right. She stepped closer until there was only the width of their joined hearts between them. I'm ready to take that leap. With the weight of unspoken fears lifting, they leaned into the warmth of the moment. It was a promise wrapped in hope, a nurturing flame ready to grow bright amid challenges. I'll always be here for you, Lucy, Jake whispered, a gentle vow softening the air around them. Together, then, she said, her voice filled with certainty. For the land, for our future, and for whatever this is becoming. As the twilight transitioned into starlit night, Lucy realized that her journey hadn't just been about fighting for her home, but also opening her heart. It would not be easy, but she was no longer afraid. There was strength in vulnerability, a power in connection, and she would hold tightly to both as they stepped boldly into the unknown future. Would they succeed in their fight? They didn't know, but together, alongside their beloved community, they would embrace each new dawn as a chance to sing their stories of love and hope as catch cries of resilience echoed across the stars. Do not wait any longer. You need to subscribe immediately to be part of the next inspiring chapter of their journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the good stories coming. Comment below with your reactions to this heartwarming conclusion. Did it touch your heart? And share this video with at least 5 friends right now who need to see this beautiful transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the love. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting this journey.